It was hot up there, wasn't it? It wasn't me. I was warm. Maybe it's no. Maybe because the door was closed, we didn't get in.
Oh yeah, they're working. Wendy, they're working now.
I know.
She fixed. She was working on it today. I know.
Good day.
Yep. Go ahead.
Good evening. I hereby announce that pursuant to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, that adequate notice of this meeting has provided in the notice that was sent to the Asbury Park Press, the Two River Times, and posted on the bulletin board in Township Hall, and filed in the Township Clerk's office on January 5th, 2022. Mayor Bontempo?
Here.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Here.
Mr. Foster?
Here.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. And everyone, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, then please remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our troops both home and abroad who work tirelessly to protect us each and every day. I'd also like to add the moment of silence. It's a tough week in Holmdel this past week. We lost one of our very devoted firefighters, Tim Flager, as well as former Vice President Board of Ed, Mike Sockles, we recognized at a meeting not that long ago here. Thank you. No. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Holmdel Township Committee meeting, October 11, 2022. I apologize for the late start, but we were in a lengthy executive session upstairs and wanted to get some important issues resolved before we came down to public. So first on the agenda is two proclamations. Correct, Wendy?
Yes.
Are you proud? Okay. So first proclamation is Red Ribbon Week. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse affect individuals, families, and communities across the nation, and whereas it's imperative that visible, unified efforts by community members be launched to prevent drug abuse, and whereas Red Ribbon Week offers citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to a drug-free lifestyle, and whereas Red Ribbon Week will be celebrating communities across the nation on October 23rd through 31st, and whereas business, government, law enforcement, media, healthcare providers, religious institutions, schools, and other community-based organizations will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing red ribbons and participating in drug prevention activities. Whereas the community of Holmdel Township further commits its resources to ensure the success of Red Ribbon Week, and therefore, on behalf of the Holmdel Township Committee, I, Gregory Bontempo, Mayor of the Township of Holmdel, do hereby proclaim October 23rd to 31st Red Ribbon Week in the Township of Holmdel, and encourage you to participate in drug prevention, education activities, not only during Red Ribbon Week, but also throughout the year, making a visible statement that we strongly committed to a drug-free lifestyle, proclaiming this 11th day of October, 2022. Very important, and the town has been a very avid supporter of this for many, many years. Also very important, and sometimes we actually have the hospital participates when we do this proclamation declaring October 2022 as Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Whereas more than 264 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed in the United States this year, and whereas for more than 25 years, National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, NBCAM, has educated women about early breast cancer detection, diagnosis, and treatment. And whereas NBCAM continues researching and reaching out to women with several key messages, most notably the importance of early detection through annual mammography screening for women over 40 or earlier for women at increased risk. Whereas mammography screenings are a woman's best chance for detecting breast cancer early, and whereas the independent reports indicate that mammography has been instrumental in the increase in the survival rate for women with breast cancer. Whereas since NBCAM's inception, mammography has doubled the breast cancer death rates have declined. Now therefore be resolved by the Mayor and Township Committee, Township of Holmdel, that October is hereby proclaimed to be Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the Township of Holmdel, to be commemorated by the residents of the township. Be further resolved that all women and their families are encouraged to get the facts about mammography proclaimed this 11th day of October 2022. I know the Bay Shore Hospital, as I said, has come here. They've done red ribbons, red banners in front of the town hall, and I know they are advocates for early breast cancer awareness and detection. Next item on the agenda, are any public comments on agenda items? On tonight's consent agenda, 2022-257 to 2022-273. Yes.
Jenny Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. You've been upstairs for an hour discussing 4 issues that you will never reveal to us, which would be very nice because we would really like to know what you were talking about in secret. Each one of these items that you were talking about are preceded on the agenda that I saw at home. It's not printed on what Wendy gave us here, with something like AWOL or AWOD or something. And what does that stand for?
ATOD.
What does it stand for?
There's a requirement in the statute to provide the anticipated time of decision when you take an action in executive session, because when the need for confidentiality no longer exists, those minutes would become public, so it's just an estimate on when the legal issues surrounding those particular issues.
But you never put a date on that.
I do put a date. I mean, quite honestly, it's a very general estimate to comply with the statute, but that's what that
Is
stands
it
for.
on that piece of agenda paper?
Yeah, we have redevelopment listed with an anticipated time of decision in November 2022.
But it's printed there? I didn't
Yes.
notice it.
Yep.
So it's anticipated time of disclosure?
Decision.
Decision. Disclosure would be better. And
You could
tomorrow
tell the
would be
legislature for us.
tomorrow would be even better because doing all this stuff behind closed doors is very annoying to the population. Bear that in mind.
Well, I would just, for the committee's sake, there's no attempt to elude the public as it may seem. These are all topics that are specifically set forth under state law to be discussed in an executive session. Tonight, for instance, we were discussing real property, legal issues, and personnel. Those items can't be discussed publicly.
In litigation.
But it
Correct,
makes
litigation.
us suspect things.
Anybody else on public comments on our agenda items? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion for resolutions 2022-257 to 2022-273?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Improvisato?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay. Resolutions 2022-257 to 2022-273 have been successfully passed. Thank you.
Next is introduction of ordinances, Wendy.
Next is introduction of ordinance 2022-29, which is an ordinance authorizing establishment of shop local property tax reward system. This motion is to adopt on first reading and publish in the Asbury Park Press and set the public hearing for November 22nd, 2022.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Improvisato?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay, 2022-29 will be set for public hearing.
Next is a hearing, Wendy.
Next is hearing on ordinance 2022-28, which is an ordinance authorizing the vacation of a portion of an easement across Block 50, Lot 54.15 on the tax maps of the Township of Holmdel.
So any public comment or questions on here, ordinances 2022-28? Yes. Just state your name and address for the record.
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road. It states that the property owner petitioned the township. I'm wondering what's on this easement and why did the owner need this vacated? Like, what will happen there?
I can answer that, Mayor. So this is a piece of property that has an easement that encumbers the person's entire backyard, and they want to put a swimming pool in the backyard, and it's a conservation easement, and that is the reason for it.
Thank you. Anybody else in public on 2022-28? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay, so ordinance 2022-28 has been successfully passed, and it will be published in the Asbury Park Press according to law.
Thank you, Wendy. We'll go through departments, administrator and CFO.
Thank you, Mayor. Two things. We did receive the audit for the year ended December 31st, 2021. There were no comments in that audit that shall be posted on the website sometime this week. Secondly, the good news is we can collect up to 500 pounds of recyclable plastic,
Yeah.
your bags. Beginning on October 17th, the box will be in the front. Please put it in the box, not on the floor or outside. We can only go up to 500 pounds, and after that, we can see if they will continue it, but right now, we're only limited to the first 500 pounds.
Oh, that's good news. I read that. I was really happy.
Yeah, that's just, hopefully we can continue it, but that's the limit we're going to have at the moment.
Okay.
We get a bench, I believe.
Is it Trex again?
Yes, yeah, we'll get if we get 500 pounds, we'll get a free Trex bench.
Let's hit that goal and then we'll ask them for more. How's that? My garage had that much in it. Thank you. Counselor, any updates?
Sure, Mayor. One item I could update the public on, as is tradition, the New Jersey natural gas litigation. Just so the public is aware. Oh, I'm sorry. Was that not working? All right,
Yeah,
I'll start
no,
over.
yeah.
New Jersey natural gas litigation. The public's aware the matter is currently before the Board of Public Utilities. The Board of Public Utilities has asked for a further extension on their time to render a final decision to January 2023. So we are not anticipating a final decision until potentially next year at this point.
Good, good. Thank you. Engineer,
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick things.
are you picking him up? You picking him up on the, okay,
Can you hear me?
yeah.
Okay. Takalusa Drive was paved and was just recently striped, came out good. And we'll work to close that project out, get the town reimbursed through a DOT grant. And the Mount Drive Force Main, we had a pre-construction meeting today with the contractor, and they indicated they're working on securing materials, and they'll be submitting a schedule of when that is going to start.
Thank you. And Takalusa has been significantly improved. It was like the rocky road to Dublin, and now it's actually a pleasure to drive on it. It was that road severely needed. So great. You guys did a great job over there. Thanks, Ben. Cool. We'll go through boards and committees. Let me start with Committeeman Impreviduto. Any updates from you?
Before we do an update, Mayor, I would like to make a motion to adopt the red, white, and blue line in favor of symbolic gesture in favor of our fire, our EMS, and our police.
He was talking to me. Say it again. So,
Sorry, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the red, white, and blue line in favor of fire, EMS, and police. A symbolic gesture, right, to support them.
Yeah, I'll second that. I'm big, as I've been known, the backbone of our community is our first responders and volunteers, emergency services. So I second that. Can you do a roll call on that, please, Wendy?
Mr. Foster?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Impreviduto?
Yes.
Mr. Lucarelli?
Yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
So let me just clarify. The line will be painted on, I'll call it the service road that goes between the new firehouse, the first aid building, and Public Works, that the township owns from Crawford's Corner all the way back to the property line where it becomes the turnpike. Red, white, and blue. I correct? I have that correct? Yes. Okay. You got that for the record? Yes, I'm a yes. Thank you. And your updates?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So for community development, we have set up software as well as a set of procedures to begin implementing the new grease trap ordinance, which was passed at the last meeting. Again, this is an ordinance that will help prevent major backups of sewer pipes like the one we saw a few months ago on Laurel Ave. The implementation of the collaborative workspaces ordinance, we've developed a new webpage that contains forms and information related to the new workspaces ordinance. This will optimize the township's inspection process, reducing red tape and making it easier for businesses to provide shared workspace to customers. As a reminder to residents, local businesses and potential vendors, if you are hosting or participating in an event where food is being prepared and cooked, please contact the Fire Prevention Office as well as the Township Clerk's Office to see if you need to apply for a relevant fire safety permit or food handler's license. We are also still receiving resumes for the Holmdel Heritage Committee. And I had my first meeting last week with the Board of Education as the new liaison, and we had a very productive discussion about how we think we can work better, more collaboratively with the Board of Education and the township to ensure that we're doing more and supporting our students, in the way that we ought to be. So, and working with greater cohesion. So those are my three.
Thank you. Community Foster, do you have any updates tonight?
No, I'm not on any boards of yet. Went to the Veterans Roundtable last Friday with you, Mayor, and that was an excellent outing. Hopefully, we're going to continue to grow that. Great space we have up there, and
Yeah.
then just the town luncheon was nice to meet a bunch of the other employees we have here in town. So that's
Thank
it for
you.
now.
Yep, thank you. Deputy Mayor Lucrell, any updates?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Before I give my updates, I would like to make a motion to appoint Committeeman Foster to the Public Safety Liaison.
Okay, I'll second that. Do roll call, Wendy?
Mr. Foster?
Yes.
Mr. Freveduto?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes,
Lucarelli?
yes.
Mayor Bontempo?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. For the Recreation Department, we have some updates. It looks like here on the 13th at noon, we have a cooking class with Antonietta. Registration is $30. We have a trick-or-treating at Bayonet Farms. I know I mentioned this at the last meeting, but this is going to come up soon. October 28th from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Registration is required, but this is a free event. Space is still available, but very limited. We have a senior Halloween lunch Tuesday, October 25th at the Senior Center. All residents 62 and over are invited to attend at no charge. Bayonet Farm, we have Sunday, October 30th, we have our big trail race there. The early registration has been extended, but space, again, is still limited. Please visit the Rec Desk webpage to register for this event. And then for Public Works, the only thing we have coming up, we're still doing the bicycle recycling program. So any resident that has a bicycle, an adult bicycle, that they would like to donate, the DPW will be taking these, they'll be fixing them up, and then recycling back into other communities that need these. And then on just another note, I know the mayor mentioned earlier that we did have some residents unfortunate passings, and I just wanted to, there's one thing I wanted to note. I did attend Mike Sockles' service at Holmdel's funeral home, and it was very moving. There was some wonderful eulogies there, but what really stood out in my mind was his one brother was speaking, and mentioned how Mike had told him, one of the last conversations they had, mentioned about the fact that the mayor and the committee had gave him a proclamation and named that day there was Mike Sockle Day, and how moved he was by that, how honored he was. So I thought that was real special to hear his brother, mention that. And, so I think that was a real wonderful thing that the community did for him and recognized him. So, it was a very, very sad time there. And we did lose a former resident and chief of Keyport. And I didn't mention, but Bill Potter also passed away. I attended his funeral. That was very untimely also and unfortunate. But that's it. That's all I have for this, for my updates. Thank you.
Thank you. So first on the bicycle collection, so on the large item drop-off on Saturday, They actually had to make 2 trips to town hall. They had so many bicycles donated. So that was a good first attempt from the town. And it wasn't heavily attended, DPW, large item drop-off either. So I'd like to thank all the residents that are participating in the program and donating bikes that they no longer want or need for people that could really, use them and benefit from it. It's very nice of the community, again. A couple of things. I mentioned our fireman, Timmy Flager. So for those of you that don't know, Tim Flager was raised here in Holmdel. He was hired as a police public safety telecommunicator after he attended Brookdale College. He served on our township faithfully for many years, working in the police as a dispatcher. Tim joined the Keyport Fire Department as a volunteer in 2007 and worked his way all the way up to department chief. As chief, he oversaw all 5 of Keyport's firehouses. Yes, Keyport has 5 firehouses, and he did an amazing job overseeing all 5 of their houses. The Township Committee extends their condolences to Tim's family and friends. We'll certainly keep him in our thoughts and prayers. He's one of the most dedicated people I have ever met, involved in the community, involved in the fire, and just a wonderful human being. So he will be missed by many. Second, as the Deputy Mayor said, Mike Sockles, longtime Vice President of the Holmdel Board of Education. Mike Sockles passed away this past week after a lengthy battle with cancer. Mike was a friend and a colleague to many people in Holmdel, in the community, and he certainly many people, I'm sure, in this room here this evening. In addition to his service on the Board of Ed, Mike was a playwright, journalist, and an actor. Mike considered himself to be a community activist, and his participation in all the important debates of this township certainly raised the level of discourse within Holmdel. On a personal note, Mike Sock was a class act. I'm proud to have known him and be able to work with him. I'm so glad we were able to recognize Mike a few weeks back and declare September 13th to be Mike Sockles Day within the township of Holmdel. We'll certainly keep Mike's family and friends in our thoughts and prayers. And, sometimes they call it about a hot mic, but as the committee and I handed him the proclamation, key of the city, he turned and he said, goes, Mayor, I don't know if I could take this. My wife doesn't like clutter. I said, Mike, it's a key. Hide in your sock drawer. He goes, she'll know it's there. She'll know it's there. I go, please take it, Mike. I said, please take it. So he took it, and he was, as the Deputy Mayor said, he was very grateful. As Committeeman Foster mentioned, we had our second roundtable. So this past Friday, we had our roundtable event at the New Jersey Vietnam Veterans Memorial and Vietnam Veteran Museum, right in back of Town Hall on the PNC Arts Center, and it was a resounding success. Committeeman Foster and I were joined by over a dozen veterans, as well as representatives from New Jersey Military, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, who spoke about benefits and services and information from Naval Weapons Station Earl down there in Colts Neck. I'm happy to announce that Captain Callahan from Naval Weapons Station Earl has invited the members of the Holmdel Veterans Initiative to tour his base next month on November 3rd. So we're going to give our veterans, all of them who have never been on this military base, because it is locked down in secret, and there's a lot of movement with ships being loaded right now with artillery, and we're going to get a tour of the base for our veterans. So that's very exciting. Veterans who are interested in participating should contact Barbara Kowaleski, Administration Office. Space is limited, and background checks are required. So I think Barbara has to set, it's either this Friday or Monday, Wendy, as a drop dead date, because information has to be put in the database, need to be cleared by DOD before you're allowed on the base. I could tell you that it was interesting. We have an array of veterans, all different ages, right, from fairly young, recently out of the military, to people that have been out of the military for many years. And it's interesting because a lot of them have some of the same issues with getting medical care, medical aid, getting medals that they were should have been awarded or acquired when they were in the military, they never got. There was just an article in the Asbury Park Press, I think, a day or two ago, with the congressman helping a veteran from Wall, after 55 years, get the medals he deserves. So it's actually a nice group, and the people that came in spoke about that, about people sharing information, and it's really a roundtable trying to help veterans out. So The group is growing. I think Barbara and team are doing a great job in reaching out to veterans. So if you know any veterans that are interested, this is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be able to get on the base. So if you're interested in seeing, behind the scenes and kind of what goes on over there, behind the curtain, as they say, please reach out to Barbara if you're a veteran and you get on the list to participate on the on our next event on November 3rd. That are all the updates I have. I will now open up for any public comment. Public's invited to come up to the microphone. You have 3 minutes. And do you have your clerk statement, Wendy?
In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, this is a public comment period for public comment on any governmental issue of public concern. In accordance with Resolution 2022-17, public commenters are asked to raise their hand and wait to be recognized by the mayor before coming forward and making public comments. Commenters are asked to state their full name and address before commenting. Public commenters are limited to one comment, not to exceed 3 minutes. Comments should be directed to the mayor and township committee. If appropriate, the mayor may direct and recognize a staff employee or professional to respond to comments either at this meeting or in writing after this meeting.
Thank you. And anybody from the public? Yes.
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road. First item I wanted to talk about were the signs. If you've noticed some signs around town, I'm a little concerned with the proliferation of signs. So I pulled up the Supreme Court case, Reed against Town of Gilbert, which was from 2015. It's pretty recent. I'm confident if our Supreme Court justices can come to consensus on signs, our committee of 4 can. And that case holds that as long as your ordinance is not content-based, then you can have a sign ordinance, and it specifically leaves open that this decision does not prevent governments from enacting effective sign laws, and the town may be able to forbid postings on public property so long as it does so in an even-handed, content-neutral way. So I will also provide you, I think I may have in the past some ordinances, because I know other towns in Monmouth County have done this. And everybody always says First Amendment issue. I don't think it is, and I'm sure Mr. Collins can forward the case. It specifically says we can do it under these certain parameters. My second comment or question, Mr. Impreviduto, you talked about meeting with the Board of Ed. I was just wondering if, when I'm done, you can provide maybe some specific areas where you and the board found that the township could work with the board on certain things. And then my final one is to Mr. Foster. I just read while you were all upstairs your press release, or I read the Tap Into article on your press release. And a couple of questions. One, I know it sounded like the appointment of administrator was supposed to be on our agenda tonight. It wasn't. I think our CFO has a full-time job as CFO, if I'm not incorrect. That was a full-time job. So he's doing 2 full-time jobs and asking that to continue and saying, there's no rush. You pointed out yourself it's been 8 months, so I don't think anybody's rushing on this. I think it's a long time coming that we should not have one person doing 2 full-time jobs. My final, and my question, that's my comment, is you've been to 1 meeting, this is your 2nd meeting. Is everything going to be in the press that the township is doing? Is township business going to be in the press all the time? If there's something on an agenda you get before everyone else, are you going to be putting it out into the press and conducting business that way? Because that is something I would not support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, you want to just touch on the signs real quick? Because that's interesting.
Sure.
what you bring up.
It's an area the committee can explore. If they're content neutral, you have a better ability to regulate. Content based, absolutely not, because then and candidly, our sign ordinance regulates political signs, but not other signs, which then triggers the potential for strict scrutiny. So we can certainly look at it. The Supreme Court did leave some latitude for towns to regulate, but at the same time, sometimes individual towns have regulated and then gotten slapped at the district court level. So the courts are a bit unpredictable, but if the committee is interested, we could certainly explore that on a content-neutral basis.
Yeah, I would just say I would support that. I would support at least looking into some type of a more stringent ordinance, so maybe, so I would support that in the future. And I agree with you. I think it's a little ridiculous, some of the clustering of signs. If there's a way we can regulate the amount of signs one person can put on a property or something like that, just to help with, 10 signs on one piece of property or something like that.
The only other complication I'd note for the committee is the enforcement end of things. Yeah, it gets tricky, and that obviously takes township resources. So that's the other balancing factor, I would say, is but I'm happy to absolutely work on something.
Mike, can I speak about the Duncan Smith in regards to the BOE?
I guess broadly speaking.
I'll be.
Yeah, broad, yeah.
So there were two items specifically that I want to say I brought to the table, if you will, in working and speaking with the Board of Education members. So it was a beneficial discussion on both sides. They had a lot of ideas, and I certainly have some ideas. One is we are looking to, Counselor, I'm going to try to keep this appropriately vague. We are looking to assist on some structural repairs with one of the buildings on the Board of Education property. And the other is, goes back to a campaign concept I had a year ago, which is for us to foot the entire bill for school security, which, right now we pay about 10%. That escalates to 50%, I think, over a 5-year period or a 3-year period. I prefer we foot the whole $250. That frees up capital for them to, to invest elsewhere in students' learning and activities. So those were sort of, those are the two, I'd say, primary items discussed, but under the auspices of how can we help?
Thank you. Absolutely, yes.
So, excellent question, Karen. Thank you. There was nothing mentioned as far as, excuse me, Barbara, sorry. Nothing was mentioned in regards to anything on the agenda this evening. I think I was pretty descriptive as to what my thoughts and feelings were. This is something that has been spoke about in several town meetings going over the past 8 months. I don't anticipate speaking about anything that we're talking about here in the town council unless I feel it's relevant to what's going on.
Thank you. Anybody else in public? Yes.
Ron, I'm at 32 Ladwood Drive. I understand former Deputy Mayor Santana had requested an investigation or an inquiry into the response time of the latest structural fire at Barbera. I was wondering whether you guys could provide an update on that.
Is that all, or should I just? You have anything else, or is that the main?
I guess it all depends on the answer.
Okay.
Fair enough. So yes, I did tell the former deputy mayor that I would look into his concerns. I met with Dave DRC, who is our police, but he also trains all the fire department and everything. So anyway, we sat down. He pulled all the call logs. He printed out a report for me about all the times of every single call that came in and where it and how it happened. And we spoke in length. We probably met for about an hour and a half. He needs more time to kind of complete his report. He watched the meeting, so he took down every note, exactly verbatim how the mayor asked, and he will have a complete report for that, but it's not ready yet, also in lieu of the fact that they had the chief passing and a lot of guys were doing services and stuff like that. So it's all being investigated, every concern, and probably at the next meeting we'll have a more of a report. I don't know if that'll be public, but we will have an internal report to review.
Thank you. One follow-up to that was, since that fire, there was a second fire on Middle Road, another structural fire on a garage that was also completely engulfed and destroyed. So my follow-up to that is, how do we go about requesting a feasibility study? Maybe it's time, because as you know, every fire that we've had in the town in the last 3 to 4 years has resulted in complete annihilation of the people's homes. So how do we go about suggesting the feasibility study of a part-time hybrid, maybe paid fire department? It's something I think would I know I might be public enemy number one saying that. I'm not disparaging the great volunteers that we do have, but clearly the facts speak for themselves. Houses are burning to the ground. Houses are not being saved. And I just think some sort of hybrid system, part-time system, some sort of compensation for a paid fire department is well overdue. And maybe the township committee could look into at least doing a feasibility study without outright saying it costs too much, our taxes are going to go up. Well, our taxes have gone up because our rating has still not gone down because of the location of the firehouse. So I respectfully request that maybe a feasibility study for the cost, the potential cost of a part-time or paid hybrid fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the public? Yes. Then I thought you were going to say something.
Jay Yanello, 18 Ladwood Drive. Mr. Impreveduto, you mentioned possibly sharing some money with the school board, and I'm all for that. Repairs, safety, it's wonderful. They've spent a tremendous amount of money on sports infrastructure over the past 5 years, maybe $8-9 million. So I hope we just keep that in mind as we're sharing money back and forth. Mr. Foster, you seem very, for someone who just joined 2 weeks ago, you're very passionate about this administrator thing, and I'm not behind the scenes, so I don't know exactly all the details. But very passionate. You put out the press release. It was covered in the press. My first question is, both last time you were here and also in this press article, you mentioned you spoke to county officials. I've spoke to county officials. One of the biggest concerns with the special election was the outside influence of county officials. And I guess it's normal in politics to speak to county officials, but should we be concerned you're talking to them too much or no? Should we, well, that's one question, yeah.
It also mentioned I spoke to people that work here in town and also other township officials.
Oh,
but
no,
you
I
left that
realize
out.
that.
Okay, but you left that out.
Well, I'm
so
focusing
I don't
on-
think you need to be concerned. I'm speaking to too many people if I'm trying to get as much information as I can. I actually think that's a benefit to town that I'm trying to gain knowledge on these different things that are going around. And the administrator position is a critical role.
No, that's fair. I realize you spoke to other people. It's just the people are sensitive about county involvement in Holmdel. That's why I brought it up. But again, so it's become a big issue for you pretty quickly, which a lot of people are surprised at. Have you spoken to anyone that might be interested in this role over the past few months?
In which role?
The administrator role.
No, I wouldn't.
You don't know of anyone that might be interested in this role?
I know absolutely nobody who's interested in that role.
Okay, great. And you're the safety liaison now? Is that what they said earlier? Oh, okay. Well, this is something a lot of people have spoken this week, and I've encountered this week. And this is about the 6th time I'm bringing it up. The deer issue. The deer issue. No, those things. Yeah, the deer. Ron just grumped. I know it's a losing issue, but as someone said, pretty well respected in town to me today, God forbid we lose someone from it, one of our kids or someone. The deer issue is really bad again. The problem now is they're coming out at 7 p.m., 7:30. Yesterday on Holmdel Road, my family and I were going for pizza. 3 just strolled out at 7:30 p.m., right onto the road. So it's not like it's 11:30 at night or midnight. They're coming out now at all hours. Is there something we can do? This is a losing issue, I realize it, but I think it's something, if you do speak to the county, this is something definitely to speak to them about. That's it, thank you.
So I know on the deer issue, there have been people who have died over the years from swerving out of the way to avoid a deer and hitting a pole or a tree. So the issue isn't going away. I know the county runs deer hunting in Holmdel Park in December and January, I believe. So it's coming up where they'll shut the park down and they'll allow certain people to go in there and hunt to thin it out. But I'm not sure how much it's done. We've looked at this issue for years. Probably 15 years ago, one of the committeemen up here was promoting hunting in town, and then there were people picketing in front of the post office and town hall trying to stop the thinning of the deer in the town. But it is definitely an issue, and from a safety standpoint, you're 100% right. How many accidents? You probably Oprah all the police reports from Holmdel and Colts Neck every year that are deer-related accidents or incidents that occur, and the tens and thousands of dollars in property damage that occur, let alone injuries and possibly worse. Somebody, again, swerving that deer and hitting a tree or a pole. So it's an issue. But if Holmdel thins its deer, they're just going to come in from Colts Neck. It's a global issue, and we have a lot in town, but one of the items we're trying to take care of is one of our farms, because it's getting inundated with. We got pictures from one of our farmers on the deer that are just destroying his farm, and trying to do something about it. Because when Middletown built, he said that the deer kind of shifted over from Middletown into Holmdel, and farm is a great place to go because it's a great food source for them. So they kind of gravitate there and don't think anything of it. You can see 15 to 20 to 30 at a time on the front, and deer prints all over the place, and that just destroyed not only his pumpkin patch but all his sunflowers too. So it's a global issue. I mean, the four of us could certainly enact hunting in whatever park, but I don't think it's going to solve the problem. I don't. We'll take care maybe a few deer, but they're just going to move out when they know there's hunters. Go over to Colts Neck because Southern Holmdel borders there, and they're going to come right back. And if anybody else has any thoughts on the deer population.
There's really not much that you can do. I mean, one of the things that I thought about was, putting up more signage in roads like high traffic areas where there are a lot of deer to alert drivers and stuff. But that's useless because they're just everywhere. And there's just really not much we can do. I mean, I think it's the building throughout the state and the county. It just moves deer around, and they go to the wooded areas or the open areas, and that just, Holmdel has a lot of wooded areas, so then they're just moving around freely. So there's just not much you can do. But on a lighter note, I thought you would appreciate this. The other day I was driving on Middletown Road, and I caught myself looking up for branches to fall, and I'm saying, what the hell am I doing? So I thought you'd appreciate that, Jay, but I was looking.
Thank you. Yes. Jenny? Yeah, yep.
In the deer subject.
Just state your
Jenny
name.
Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. A day or so ago, I had reason to Google the Princeton Packet, which is the local newspaper in Princeton, and I read across an article that I was not looking for about how the Princeton Township Committee had recently, like that week, approved contracts with the blah blah company. I didn't write it down on a piece of paper, for taking care of some deer issues. They were going to dart the does and give them a hysterectomy and send them back on their way. So you might want to talk to the people who've done the homework in Princeton over this issue. I know they've been having trouble with the deer jumping through windows on Mercer Street for years. But, they're absolutely crazy around here. I walked out into my garage about 10 days ago. The door was open. It was 10 o'clock at night. Both cars were in the garage, and there was a stag by the side view of my Subaru. I mean, fortunately, he was facing the street, not me, and he just sort of walks out as if he owned the garage. No harm done. But the goofiest thing was, I've seen this twice now. It is called a piebald deer. Has anybody ever seen a piebald deer? It looks like a cow. It is brown and white spotted. It's the darndest thing I have ever seen. You could Google it, and this is really, really weird. Apparently it's not totally unusual, but it's kind of rare. And it's like, oh my goodness, what am I looking at? But it eats just as much stuff as all as its brethren. And, we've just given up. They can eat the oak leaves or they can chew on rocks. I think it's hopeless, and it's really kind of sad because they're ruining the understory at Holmdel Park. So, that's that for now.
Anybody else in the public? Yes.
Hi there. Good evening, Mayor and Township Committee. I appreciate sharing a couple words with you. I was on the road, I came in.
Just state your name and address for the record, for the
I'm sorry,
clerk.
Terrence Wall, 170 La Quinta Court. Couple quick things that I heard on the way in. I agree with Mr. Emma completely. I've chatted about a hybrid for the tremendous work that the volunteers do, but the tremendous challenge in response times and apparatus and the respective ISO rating. So I think you should minimally price that out, cost that out. I think Mr. Emma's quite correct on some type of hybrid, a blended approach. I'm familiar with that from North Jersey. It works quite well, so I would recommend you take a look at that. Just a clarification for Ms. Singer. On the Friday's agenda, the public agenda released Friday, the executive session listed the administrator position. Okay, so that has been out in public for several days. And I want to thank Committeeman Foster for bringing more transparency to the dais. It's been sorely lacking, so it's refreshing and good and healthy for everybody up there, including the professionals and the staff. They need that, so that's a great change. So thank you for that, especially with the administrator position. Okay, it's really, really important. You get the best candidate.
It's your wife's publication he went to.
I'm not here to be Mayor, I'm not here to be attacked, but I'm here to make a few comments. He issued a public statement, so I'm just reflecting the transparency. Again, I think it's nice and it's overdue, and I think that's really great. Regarding the Sockles Award, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. Mike is a great friend to all of us, and for you to honor him and for him to be here was precious and so wonderful for the family, and as the brother had reflected during the eulogy. So it's, you know, these ripples in the pond that have a big impact. I'm just sharing with you, you know, my appreciation as well, and how important that was, and how sadly timely that was. So thank you for that. Regarding the school, this is just myself speaking as an individual, not on behalf of any board. I heard at a prior meeting the mayor had indicated that the Board of Education is responsible for traffic and transit in front of the high school and road repairs and expansion. That's just not how government works. The way government works is a road project would be a partnership between, in this case, I believe, it'd be the county and the municipality. I would strongly urge you to do two particular things. I would get with the county engineering program and have your engineers meet with them. Bennett Matlack, he knows the staff, he knows the folks over there. Sit down, get a 2023 capital program concept in the works, 'cause then that way you can look at the funding aspects. If you have to have a bond ordinance or what have you, I'm certain the board, which does not control that, they can look at their capital and their available resources and see how they can partner as far as you need to utilize property. But the safe ingress and egress for children, students, high school staff, all the folks, that's overdue. And on the right turn on Red down by the road where you turn right coming to the school, there's a study that indicated you can lift that restriction of turning right on Red prior to 8 a.m. That creates quite a backlog as well. And I think, Mayor, I think that was it.
Perfect.
I wanted to just share those items with you. I appreciate your time, and have a great night.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? Anybody out there? No? I'll close public comment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Are you all in favor?